Okay.
So you do that, you make them happy, and then they might give you a bit of a rent decrease.
I train their son as well. So
even better.
Yeah. Easy for you.
So, we're going live on TikTok now.
Evening all.
Just setting up the recording now, thank you. Just getting up to TikTok.
Good tune.
Okay, we're on. We got there.
Yeah. Only Shane again while we're late, people. Only Shane again, as you know.
He's a perfectionist. It's good.
Yeah, perfectionist.
He's just had first-hand experience now.
Lee, thank you for coming on.
That's right. Thanks for having me.
I really appreciate it, as does Adrian.
Yeah.
Adrian's a mate of yours. He's known you for a few years. I've met you once.
Yep.
So tonight's about me learning more about yourself. So I wanted to jump straight into the nitty gritty if I could.
Yeah, go ahead.
We want to go straight back to your childhood. So from as far back as you can remember, where you grew up, you know, how your childhood was, etc., etc. So let's start with that.
Yeah, well, not far from here, where I grew up. I literally just on the way here, I always drive past. If ever I come to Chapman's, I always go past the old house, have a little look, see what it's looking like now. And yeah, I had a good childhood. So my mum worked in retail, dad ran a motor racing team. So I grew up on the, as you know, Adrian knows, grew up around motor racing, kart racing and stuff. So I think it was sort of inevitable I'd probably fall into some sort of motorsport. But I think that was kind of where it kind of went a bit wrong originally, because what was happening was I was racing go-karts at 8, 9, 10 years old, and all the other lads were like playing football and riding around their bikes. So I think what the perception was that I was a bit spoilt. I think that was pretty much everyone's perception.
I suppose with motor racing, or even there's that perception around motor racing that you have to be quite rich to partake in it, and hence why we don't want to go off script, but obviously that's what they're trying to break now, isn't it, with all the new rules and stuff.
Yeah.
But again, like you say, it's seen as a...
It was different, wasn't it? I say most of my mates play football, and like I say, did everyday stuff. The fact of it was there's a term saying on a shoestring, and the first ever go-kart we ever had, my dad paid £100 for it, and it had been in the shed for 14 years, and the tyres were like rock. They were literally like rock. The engine was seized up, you know, and because dad worked in the motor race industry, he knew how to fix it. So although from the outside surface it seemed like they had this really expensive go-kart, it was actually not a piece of crap, but it was, you know what I mean, it was like one that someone had shoved in their shed. Yeah. So, but from the karting point of view, that was a good thing, because I knew no different. So I'd turn up to the karting event, we'd have it on the roof of my dad's car. My dad had a brown Cortina. It was battered old Cortina. And we'd turn up and everyone would have like trailers and tents and stuff, do you know what I mean, marquees and that. And I used to beat them. And they'd be like, how's this lad beating everyone in this old rickety old cart? But I thought that was a good thing. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? But again, outside world, just all they saw was I went karting every weekend. And that's really where the kind of bullying started from, the name calling and all that.
Was that at school?
Yeah.
When you say the bullying started, was it in? You know, we've all got little neighbourhoods and little around. So obviously, you say you grew up in Vincent's. Was it around that area, or was it actually at the school?
No, it was at school. It was at school. So it'd be like, oh, here he comes, old spoilt boy. Or I remember someone saying, oh, if you go around Kempy's house, you've got to take your shoes off because you get diamonds stuck in your shoes. And I know, you say it now and it sounds really pathetic, right?
Yeah.
And but I always remember that always sticks in my head because my mum was like really house proud. So, and the funny thing, all my mates used to come round though, because they wanted to come and see the carts. They wanted to come in the garage and see what it's all about. And but then they'd like say horrible stuff afterwards. Do you know what I mean?
I suppose that's even worse as well, isn't it? Really, because you feel like you're letting people into your life, and you feel they're your mates, and it hurts more when you find out. You know, if for want of a word, if you don't give a crap about someone, you don't really care what they say. Yeah. But when it's people you think are friends,
exactly,
coming around and eating round your house,
that's what I mean. Playing the video games and doing all that, and then. You know what I mean? Going up the road and saying all this stuff. I think the thing with it was, if I'm honest, I was very small as a child, very skinny back then, and I know it sounds like really cliche, but I do think I was an easy target, if I'm honest, because a lot of the lads were bigger, taller, bigger, stronger, whatever.
Well, the Chapman's was overflow, wasn't it?
Yeah,
so from London to Stevenage to Chapman. So a lot of London people
came
over here.
Yeah.
So when we were growing up,
the
Chapman's was known around here as quite a tough, strong.
It was known as rough, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was
we
were
as
okay because we sort of lived there. Do you know? I remember going down to shops and there'd be Hitchin lads coming over, Luton lads coming over for scraps.
They wanted to fight, didn't they?
Shops. Yeah, mate, they were proper mates.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And like you say, so growing up through that environment, it was really tough estate. Do you know what I mean? The sportsman and all that.
That's it.
Is it true they used to hide weapons around the estate? Like, they used to hide them ready for fights anywhere.
I definitely know of a few coshes being...
I got told that when I first moved here.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but I mean, look, that's every estate in fairness.
Yeah.
Like,
You can go anywhere, can't you?
We can only go by what we know.
Absolutely.
And that's what we knew growing up was, things like that happening. So you're right. It was
tough, and I was an easy target. I think back then I was really, really shy as a kid as well. Really introvert, very shy. So I think when you've got, and the worst thing I think, and I'm bullying in general to me is like I hate it, but there was like 5 or 6 of them. Do you know what I mean? And it would be like when you're on your own, it's a bit. I sort of almost consider myself lucky now because we didn't have social media then.
Yeah.
So at least when I went home, it stopped. Do you know what I mean? It was
Nobody's recording the fight and.
Yeah, like I could have a bit of respite from it. Do you know what I mean?
I've got a 5-year-old and a 10-year-old now, and social media and phones is such a big part of their life. You try and do what you can, but you can't switch off. No. They're always in WhatsApp groups.
Yeah.
And, girls can be very. Brutal, do you know what I mean? Boys, you tend to have a scrap. Normally, like you say, you go home.
That's it, innit? It's done.
But now it's so brutal.
It continues.
On social media, how they get through it, I don't know. But
cyberbullying, isn't it?
Yes,
that's the thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Was it ever physical, or was it just name calling?
No, so that was the thing. So what happened there was, it was all started off just these little jibes about the being rich and being spoilt and all the rest of it. And then, so my dad said, I think we need to toughen you up, son. So I remember, I think he was doing 2 things. I think 1, he wanted to try and toughen me up, but I think 2, he was trying to put me off, because I said about boxing. So I think I was like, I don't know what it was, I won't be old, 8, 9, 10 or something, I don't know. And he took me to a boxing gym in Hitchin. And it was like a scene out of Rocky, because I walked in and the whole gym just stopped. I went like that. And it was like this smog. Yeah. And it was just me, like 5 foot nothing. And I said, can we leave now, Dad? Because it was scary, right? So then I asked him again. So he took me to a live fight. It was somewhere in Royston. And I think going back now, there were some big names on it. As I've got the programme at home, and I remember someone's nose getting splattered across their face, and I was like, nah, boxing ain't for me. And I think he was like, I don't know, it was a funny one. I was like, was he trying to help me, was he trying not? Anyway, eventually, I decided I wanted to do it. I wanted to do some training, and it was self-defence, that's all it was. So to answer your question, no. So what happened then was, I started the boxing, and then I suppose people presumed I could look after myself, I don't know. And it was all name calling. It was all names. But I remember saying to myself, I wish someone would just punch me in the face. I'd rather have a little fight and get it over with, because then I could feel that relief then, do you know what I mean, if it's done. But because it was all the verbal stuff, it never kind of leaves you, because you go home and you lay in your bed at night and you can hear all this stuff going around in your head.
I suppose some people might start believing it as well. When they hear it constantly, you might start believing it yourself. Yeah. And then you go home and you're lying in your bed that night and you're like, do you know what, maybe they're right.
Yeah.
Maybe I am privileged.
Do you know what? You're right. I didn't ever think that. And I tell you, the only reason why is because I saw how hard my dad worked. Do you know what I mean? So I think that was a thing. Like, his job was non-stop, so he'd fly out to wherever he was flying out to, South Africa, America, Japan, whatever. Don't get me wrong, on paper, his job looked well glamorous. But he was managing a team of like 40, and he'd fly out there, and he'd be out there for 2 weeks. Then he'd come back, and then they'd rebuild the car. He'd be knackered. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And like, he'd come home, and my mum was really demanding on my dad. I didn't have a great relationship with my mum, because I felt like she bullied him a little bit. Like, he'd come home, and she'd punish him for being away. She'd literally say to him, it's all right if you've been on holiday.
Yeah. Especially if she's probably had a bit of a tough time with you. And
Yeah, maybe. So she felt like she was being neglected. But I remember Dad saying, I remember sitting around the dinner table, and he said, oh, fine, I'll go and work in a warehouse. If that's what you want, like, I'll do it. I don't, like, if that's what makes you happy. And obviously that wasn't what the answer. But, so I think, so we weren't privileged, do you know what I mean? We just lived in a normal council house on Japman's, same as most of us that grew up together. I just happened to do a sport that was different to everyone else. I think that's the easiest way.
Yeah, and like I say, the perception of that. Yeah. Unfortunately, people don't do any kind of research. They just assume that's the way it is. Yeah. And I think that's what we're trying to achieve here with what we're doing is trying to just educate where we can. And get people to understand that it's not what you see from the outside. That's
the thing, and that's exactly. I think we spoke about a minute ago. What goes on behind closed doors? No one sees that. So
no.
Yeah.
So after school, you went from primary school. You then went on to secondary school.
Yep.
Did it carry on there, or did it stop?
That's where it was the worst. That was
secondary school was the worst.
Mate, it was daily.
And you got more children to contend with as well, because primary schools are small. Secondary schools are much, much bigger.
I'll tell you what I really remember. This is how bad it got. I remember that and it sounds, take this out of meanness. Like you have like the popular groups at school, then you have the, everyone labels you something, the nerdy group, the goody good, good group, whatever. And I was sort of in a popular group, if you want to call it that. And what happened was the people that were doing the bullying recruited some of the lads out of the non-popular group to say stuff to me, because they'd go, what are you going to do about it? Do you know what I mean? So now I had the people like, it didn't matter to me, everyone to me was equal. But do you know what I mean? I had now people that I didn't even know who they were. And I'd be walking down the corridor and they're screaming abuse at me. And I'd sort of say something to them, and then you get the lads standing behind them going, well, what are you going to do about it? And I was like, well, I can't believe this. So now there was like 9 or 10 of them every day.
This was at William,
It's at William, yeah. So, and the thing is, I'd make every excuse. I was always trying to pretend I was ill, because I didn't want to go to school.
The problem with William as well, because it was a community school, you literally, I don't remember anyone that didn't live on the estate not
go there, yeah, exactly.
Everyone that went to the school,
absolutely.
So you had Lanark went there.
That's it.
You had Radburn, all
yeah.
filtered in, and then you had a bit of Baldock thrown in. Do you know what I mean? But primarily, it literally was.
It was, it was everyone.
You just weren't hiding from them.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you went to Highfield, at least you come home to the Japman.
Yeah, it's on a different way, wasn't it?
Away. But here, William, it was literally people you see down the shop as well.
Yeah,
there was no hiding place.
There was no hiding place. It was, I say, it was daily, every day. Like, every day. Just relentless. And I'd get to school and think, what's in store for me today? Do you know what I mean? What's gonna play out today?
Did you complete school? Did you leave at 16?
No, I left.
When did you leave?
I left at, so William closed, didn't it?
Yeah.
So William closed down and we all had to go, we was all supposed to go to a school called Norton. You didn't go, did you? You went
mate. No,
you didn't go. So, and I didn't go either, I went to Highfield. But the only reason I went to Highfield was because they had a go-karting club. And I was like, right, because I'm not academic, I'm dyslexic as hell. I can't write very well and stuff like that. And so I thought, well, at least I can go to a school and at least do something and join in with a go-karting club. So that's the only reason I went to Highfield. I didn't really go there for my education. And then when it come to exam time, I basically just bailed. I didn't even sit my exams. Didn't even.
Yeah. Did you find that when you went to Highfield, did it carry on, or did it give you a bit of respite, or you got to the point where you just literally shut off from school and didn't even give it a chance at Highfield?
Yeah. I was only there for a year, so exactly, I was there less. Actually, I attended school less than I did, if that makes sense. My mum used to drop me off, and I used to wait for her to drive up the road, and I used to wander into town or go home or do something. But yeah, I was done. So to me, and I might be wrong, I felt a bit like the school failed me a little bit. Not in like a victim way, but I just felt like I got a bit despondent with the school. They didn't do anything. They didn't really seem to be bothered about it. So, like I said, I just went there because I thought, right, I'll get what I can out of school now. Because as far as my education was concerned, I was like, I'm done. Left with nothing. So,
how was the relationship? I don't mean the relationship as mother, and son, and father and son, but how was that with the bullying with your parents? Did they know? Did they try and help? Or because obviously, as you know, if they go in, you're grass and all that the usual scenarios and all that. But how did you find it was?
So
relationship with your parents.
So my dad didn't really know much. I sort of idolised my dad, and I saw what he was doing and how hard he worked and that. And I sort of felt like I didn't want to bother him because he was so busy, you know. And then mum, again going back to what I said earlier, I didn't have a great relationship with my mum. My mum, so I had a sister who's 3 years older than me, and the dynamic in the house was strange. So when my dad was away, I felt like I was ignored a lot, if I'm honest with you. And the term my mum used to say to me all the time was, "You're just like your father. You're just like your father." And what was happening was my mum and dad's relationship was breaking down, like, massively. They disliked each other very much. And because me and my dad had such a bond with the motor racing, and maybe I looked like my dad then, I don't know, she just saw, every time she saw me, she saw my dad. So whenever she was angry with my dad, she'd take it out on me. Does that make sense?
I get that.
Yeah.
And also, as a boy growing up with an older sister and a mum, I suppose that dynamic is that you know, it's natural. If you stick together, you're
fair enough.
Closer. Do you know what I mean? So you're just underneath trying to fight for attention, especially like you say, if your old man's away a lot of the time. It's very difficult. Isn't it? Do you know what I mean? So again, you know, the dynamic at home was probably quite tough as well.
It was, and that's to answer your question. It felt like I'd go home, and it sounds really like whatever, but I'd feel a bit lonely at home. Do you know what I mean? Because I couldn't talk to her, and if I did ever try approaching the subject, she'd be like, I always remember not the back of her hand, literally, or this part of her hand. I remember going, "I'm talking to your sister. I'm going to talking to your sister." And I remember just seeing this part of her hand all the time, and I'd be like, "Mum, I need to talk to you." And that's what I used to get. I'm talking to your sister, and I'd be like, "Sending you in, I didn't bother." I just didn't bother, So I didn't bother even talking about it.
Which meant you bottling it up, bottling everything that's going on at school.
Yep.
You're going through puberty, you're becoming a teenager, and instead of releasing this...
there was a lot of anger,
Your dad's away as well, so you haven't got him to turn to. Must be really difficult.
Yeah, it was tough. Like I say, it was tough, and that's that vision in my head. And it's interesting because, you know, I'm 48 now, and I can still see that hand. As clear as you two are now. Do you know what I mean? And I think, you know, go back when we're childhood and stuff, and how your childhood can mould you and stuff.
100%.
Do you know what I mean? So, like, you know,
we touched on it in a previous episode with Angus. Is sometimes and my sister with the episode. Sometimes you don't know what triggers you've got until you're actually older, and then look back and go, "Oh, actually, that really did upset me, and that has affected me."
100%.
Shane, very much, you know, because of some of the things that the abandonment he feels from being a kid. He didn't really realise it at the time, but now he still sees the triggers now. You know, if people like from his football team or whatever feel like messy about, "Oh, we're leaving." He can't take that joke. He feels like he's being abandoned. And you don't realise how much it does
affects
have
you
an effect on you until you get older.
Absolutely, and I think that's something maybe I'll talk about in a minute. But that's so relevant because I was talking to someone the other day about people that have anxiety and depression and stuff like that. And listen, we all joke, we all have banter, we all say stuff and the rest of it. But I think if you've got someone, I think we all open this, right, and words come out. And sometimes we don't think about all the words that are coming out.
Don't engage the brain.
Yeah, or who they're coming out to. And we're all guilty of it, right? We all do it, right?
No.
We all do it. But sometimes, exactly, something that's funny to someone isn't funny to someone else because it triggers, right? It's a trigger. So I get that completely. There's so many things little things that someone wouldn't even think would trigger someone.
No.
And then that can play on your mind for days then.
They haven't had that experience.
Yeah, you got it.
Some people, like I say, will have a different kind of trigger. You know, there might be something else that's happened. And it's not just childhood, it can happen in young teens, into young adulthood, effectively. But it's always little moments that, you know, for myself, it was always obviously finding out that my real dad, or my dad wasn't my real dad. Do you know what I mean? And again, at the time, I didn't think it affected me, but as we grow older and get older, now it does really mould my life because I will never, ever leave my children. Do you know what I mean?
It changes your perception.
And it's changed me as a person and how I look at things. And in fairness, it helped me get through my drink addiction because it was you're going to lose your kids.
Yeah. The reality
that was
kicked in.
Suddenly, the reality of I can't do that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it was a good thing from that point of view, but it was also
it's horrible to go through it.
Yeah.
It ends up being a good result at the end. But you gotta go.
Yeah.
You gotta go through it first.
So we've been through the schooling.
Yes.
We've been primary school. We've been secondary school.
Yes.
So after you left schooling, you did what?
I tried to get a job. So So the first job I tried to get, actually, ironically, was in Ford's in Letchworth in the town centre. I wanted to Gates. And I rung them up. This is when we still had landlines. Rung them up, and it was in the paper. They have a apprentice mechanic, and I thought, I know what I can do. I could watch my dad working with tools, and I rung them up. And the first question they asked was, "What GCSEs you got?" And I said, "None." I said, "However, going up round motor racing, right?" And they didn't want none of it. All they cared about was GCSEs. Yeah. So basically, this pattern continued. So eventually, my dad had then taken on the business he was working for. They shut down, so he started to work in Huntingdon building Indy cars, the American Indy cars, and he got me a job there. So I was 16. It's amazing, right? I'm 16. I'm building Indy cars. This is when Nigel Mansell transferred from Formula One to Indy. Yeah. So we're building cars for Nigel Mansell, Newman Haas, and the rest of it. And I could do it with my eyes closed because I'd seen my dad do it. Do you know what I mean? Because I didn't. I'm more practical. Does Part A fit Part B? Yes, it does. I didn't need GCSEs for that.
Yeah, of course.
So I spent a few years working there, and then it's ironic now when I think about it now. So the people that were some of the bullies back in the day, I still kind of had contact with them, and this is where it kind of goes full circle. So what happened now was I was getting being fed with your silver spoon, and I was like, you can't write this shit. Like, so now even that, because I was working with my dad, so even now it come back round, it was like, hold on a minute. I was like, no, I'm standing on my own 2 feet, thank you. Yes, my dad got me a job, but I'm still having to do the work. So I thought, right, and I couldn't deal with it. I was like, I can't deal with this. I'm not going to be labelled like spoilt again or whatever, or privileged or whatever. So I thought I need to go and get my own job. So again, tried every job. I worked on building sites as a labourer, I'll carry a roofer. I had no experience doing it. I just do whatever I wanted to, whatever I could, right? Anyway, eventually, went to an agency in town, in Letchworth, and they said this job with this company called Shotlander. I had no idea what Shotlander was. Shotlander, and it's telesales, telemarketing, sorry. 2 weeks. I said, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Football.
Someone's ringing.
Football.
Nice tune, though.
Yeah, football.
Gonna have to edit that bit out.
Anyway, so I said I'll do it. I had no idea what it was. So anyway, so I had to basically ring up dental technicians, asking them why they buy products, why they like about products, blah blah blah. Just telemarketing, right? So I thought after about 3 days, I thought I quite like it here. I quite like talking to people. And they said it's only a 2-week contract. There was 5 of us, sorry. And after the second week, they said, "You're doing all right. Do you want to stay?" Everyone else, gosh, yeah, I like that. And then after another month, they offered me a full-time job as a telesales.
Yeah.
So now selling products, right? So I fell into dentistry. Like, who does that? Like, just fell into dentistry. Loved it. Sat a few dental exams. And after about 3 years, I said I would like to be a rep out on the road, selling stuff. And they didn't have that role there. It was an internal sales team. So my boss was brilliant. She said, "Look, I really want to help you because I think you'll go places." So she actually helped me get an interview with another company. Got another job, got an interview, got the job, and that's when I started in the corporate world of dentistry, being out on the road, annoying people, trying to get them to buy stuff from me.
Was it business? Obviously, you weren't door to door. You were going to local.
Going to dentists, yeah. Going to dental practices. So I had a territory, Herts, Beds, Bucks, Cambridge, Essex, that sort of thing. Drive around in your car, plan your day, go and knock on a few doors, get them to buy some products, get them to give you a bit of time of their time. Have what we call lunch and learn. So bring them a bit of lunch, get some products on the table, teach them about your products, and then hopefully they'll buy some stuff.
Yeah.
So that was sort of.
And by the research that I've done on you, you got quite successful in that industry. You worked your way quite high up, and you made lots and lots of sales.
Yeah, did all right in the end.
And in return, quite a successful career over 20 years.
20 years, yeah.
And to do something that long, one, you must have enjoyed it, and two, you must have been good at it. I'm not going to say that word.
You say kudos.
Kudos. He's been told off.
I'm not going to say it at all. But my point being is that, I've just been doing something that I loved for 6 years, and fell out of love of it in them 6 years.
Yeah.
So to do it for 20 years is quite an achievement. Obviously, I've got other reasons why I stepped away from my career as well. But, you know, I think hats off to you. You know, sticking at it for that long as well. Having the starting life that you had as well. You know, now you're rubbing shoulders in the sort of industry that you're rubbing shoulders with. It must have been a culture shock at start.
Definitely, It definitely. Do you know what it was? So for me, so everything I do, probably a bit like you saying about with your kids and stuff like that. Everything, I'm probably the same as you, Shane. Everything I do in my life is I want to succeed, and it's like trying to prove people wrong, isn't it? Yeah. Does that make sense, right? So those people saying I was fed with a silver spoon, I was spoiled, and whatever, that's driven me to be like, screw you, right? I'm going to go, and I got no GCSEs, I'm dyslexic, I was written off at school, right? I'm going to go and do something, do you know what I mean? And the good thing about that was after the first couple of jobs in dentistry, they didn't care about my GCSEs anymore then. They saw what companies I worked for, how many sales I made in the last year. So then you're on the ladder then, do you know what I mean? And I went from knocking on doors to being a territory manager to being a business consultant. And then in the end, I was running the biggest territory in the company, which was Central London. So really like with a big high end.
Where the money is.
Yeah, where the money is. Yeah, all the Harley Street dentists and all that, you know. And one of my goals was, I don't know if people do this still, I used to stick post-it notes on my fridge, you know, what I want to do and stuff. And one of them was to own a BMW. That was, I'd always wanted to own, just walk in a BMW garage and buy a BMW.
Yeah.
And this is a true story, right? So I went there on one Saturday and it was boiling, it was like 30 degrees. So I went in shorts and t-shirt, and I was a lot skinnier then as well. I probably looked like a right little dweeb, you know. And I walked in and there was about 5 salesmen standing around. This is a dead honest, true story, this. And I had to literally get someone to talk to me. And they looked me up and down like a piece of shit. And I was like, they looked up like I couldn't afford to buy this BMW. So a week later, there's an Audi dealership on the other side. So a week later, I walked into Audi, bought an Audi, walked back over to, I was suited and booted now, walked back over to BMW. I got my Audi key, swinging my Audi key. About 5 salesmen all flocked on me. And I said, they said, can I help you? I said, no. I said, do you remember me? And they went, no. I said, I came in last week. I wanted to buy a BMW. I said, but none of you would talk to me. I said, but it's all right, because I bought an Audi now and walked out. But so the success part of it was buying a new car, right?
So with the success side of the job at the time, obviously we've gone through the bullying side of things.
Yeah.
How was your life at that time? So you had the success, you had the car, no doubt you probably had your own home by then.
Yeah, my daughter as well.
Your life as a whole looks okay. How are you as Lee, basically, at that point?
So I lived I bought a penthouse apartment, had brand new cars, had arcade machines in my apartment. All my summer's mates used to come over on New Year's Eve. It was like a party house, right? It was brilliant. It was like a bachelor pad that you could only ever dream of. The honest truth was I still wasn't happy. Yeah. And that's the honest truth. And I think that, and that's the thing. So I had everything that I needed. But it's a big house, got my daughter, got the cars, you know, got the suits, rah. And people used to call me Maverick, because I was still wearing, I've got them over there, aviator shades. And I'd wear them even when it weren't sunny. And people would go, why are you wearing them shades? I'd hide behind my glasses.
But people would see that as you being arrogant.
Absolutely.
Loving yourself.
Absolutely.
Again of...
Absolutely. I said that to you when we chatted. Yeah. People used to go, you're so stuck up, you think you're it, don't you? And inside I was like, far from it. Yeah, but this perception was, you know, I had these white teeth and this suntan and this suit, and I was in shape then and everything else. And so I think that, going back to what you're saying about the triggers and that, even though I've got all this success, it was like, and I couldn't understand it. I was like, why am I not happy? Yeah. What is going wrong here? And I couldn't answer that, if I'm honest. Did you recognise it at the time?
Or was it you... So like looking back now, with the experience and understanding you've got now, you can now look back and go, yeah, this was that, I was struggling with it. But at the time, when you was in the moment, would you actually recognise the unhappiness? Or was it more of just sort of, no, I just don't feel great today? Or... do you see what I mean? Was you acknowledging the fact that you were probably struggling at the time?
I think I was hiding it. So I knew I was struggling, but I'd hide it behind the glasses and the suits and the success. Yeah. And at that time, I was doing really well. My kart racing was going brilliantly then as well. So, you know, I had this massive apartment, daughter's doing really well at school. I'm doing well at my job, getting paid well. Then I won the British Karting Championship in 2009. Like, it was like, again, on paper, like,
you had everything.
Yeah, what am I got to complain about, right? And I think that, again, it's just, though, going back to the triggers and that, I think it's just I could never get out of my head this other stuff. And I was trying to work out who I was trying to prove this to. Was I... Because I've already proved to myself I can do it. Yeah. I've already proved to the doubters I can do it. Who am I trying to prove? And I couldn't work that out. I don't even know.
Because you weren't sure whether it was the bullies, your dad, your mum?
I think so, yeah.
I think so. Yourself?
Yeah, I think so. I couldn't quite work out what was... And I think, going back to what you just said as well, that even though I had this success, now people were going, oh, you're arrogant. Yeah. I was like, Jesus Christ, man, give the guy a break. Do you know what I mean? Like, felt like you can't win.
Yeah.
I suppose when you turned up with the car, because I assume you went back to the family home at points and probably bumped into these people.
Yeah, maybe.
Who all had the same thing to say. Now you're the Flash.
Yeah, probably.
Get with the elders.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Probably.
We've had some. We're just going to take a break from the interview. Just going to look through some comments.
Yeah, go.
We've had a few gifts and a few comments coming through. So, Mr. Large says, "Let's go, Team Kemp."
Nice. Thank you, Tom.
JG
Cortinas were a brilliant car.
But that's just brown though. It was ugly, man.
Horrible.
It was ugly. Granada, yeah. Had brown velour seats and all. Right. Not good on a hot day.
Yeah.
Adrian, this is awesome from Morgan. Stop going on about being skinnier. Weight does not define you as a person, from JG. JG also says there's not enough support around men with real bodies, in my opinion.
I've got loads of body. Don't worry about that.
The dad bod.
We've got a dad bod going on here.
We should do a dad bod calendar, I reckon.
I can't see who it was, but somebody's gifted us a golden boxing glove. I don't know what that is. I'm going to have to look into that later on.
Thank you.
But yeah, there's the comments so far. Everyone just watching away. At one point we had 15 people there watching.
So many Morgans. What Morgan's that?
Just says, Morgan, speak up, soul.
Oh, that might be Morgan from 61.
Could well be. But hey, Adrian, this is awesome.
Nice.
But yeah, so we've just ended that bit there before that we just interrupted with the TikTok there. So we're just touching, you're hiding behind your aviators, your real feelings. When was it when you decided, you know what, I'm going to take the aviators off and I'm going to absolutely face this straight on?
Well, I didn't. So 2009, I won that karting title. And I can remember it. It was so vivid. I remember that was the end of the year, right? So we won the title. And when I say we, it was like, this was collective, because this was me and my dad together. This was like the dream.
Was it just you and your dad?
Just me and my dad.
Was there any sponsors?
No, just me and my dad. It's all out of our own pockets, right?
Yeah.
So we'd succeeded. We'd like done the dream, right? And it's probably a bit like sports people in general. And I remember sitting on my bed. It was like January the next year, 2010. And I just looked around and I was like, what am I going to do in my life now?
Really?
I was like that, you just think. And I looked around, I've got all this apartment, all this beautiful stuff going on, and I was like, I felt lost.
Yeah.
I was like, what am I going to do? Do you know what I mean? Like 30 odd years of my life have been karting, motor racing. And so to answer that question, no. So this is when the spiral started. So we used to probably drink down. Me and Adrian we were never mates, as in we never hung around together, did we?
No.
But we always was in the same pubs, Squirrel and all the other pubs and the Lytton Tree and all that, right?
Yeah.
But I was always known as a lightweight. I couldn't really drink. I'd drink bottles of Bud just to get away not drinking pints, because I couldn't handle my drink, right? So I was the last person on earth you think would turn to drink. And I don't know what made me do it. I suppose I got an addictive personality. I don't know, maybe, right? And I remember driving home one day. I was in my suit and all the rest of it. And I went to Tesco. I lived near a local Tesco's. Bought some bottles of beer, whatever. And I got drunk that night, right? And I thought...
On your own?
I'll be on, in this apartment. Daughter's not there, whatever. Woke up next day feeling like absolute death. And I thought, geez, I've got to go to work, man. I got in the shower and I was shaking. I was literally like shaking. I stuck loads of eye drops in my eyes to make my eyes look. Stuck my aviators back on.
Yeah.
No one knew any different, right? So by midpoint of the day, I started feeling all right. So I thought, God, I'm never doing that again. Anyway, driving home, go past Tesco's, bought another crate of beer.
Did the same thing again.
This is where it started. And then it became every night. Not when I had my daughter, obviously. Right? And I'd never drunk spirits before. It was, it was beer. So then I'd go now buy vodka or whatever else. But what happened in the end was, I remember going to Tesco's and it was always the same lady serving me because it was always about the same time. And I don't think she could care less, but in my head, she was judging me.
Yeah.
Right?
I know that, mate.
I just remember her looking at me and as if to say, you bought a bottle of vodka last night. They've done the little bottles, right? Again, I couldn't drink much, right? But for me, that's more than I'd ever drunk. So in the end, I stopped going to Tesco's and I'd go to a local corner shop and pay twice as much money. And every day I'd change, or whatever, I'd change the shop that I'd go to not feel
anxiety.
that shame.
That's pure anxiety.
100%. The shame of it.
I suffer anxiety, as does
Same, yeah.
A lot of us do.
Yeah.
And I can see where you're coming from. I can
feel that, can't you?
I
Yeah.
can feel it. Yeah, I can relate to it. That's right, Adrian. I can relate to it.
Yeah.
It must have been really difficult for you at that time because even so, it doesn't matter about the money. Obviously, you're doing well, so you could afford it. But it's more the principle of thinking she's judging me.
Yeah. Oh,
and
absolutely.
even if she might not have been, it might have been in your head.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the crazy thing with that is you're not actually thinking about how much you're drinking.
No.
It's more about what she
thinks of me. Exactly.
And that again is going back to the triggers of the childhood of what people think of you and their perception of you. Yeah. So again, your first thought isn't I'm drinking.
Exactly. It's
what does she think?
Absolutely. And that is in my everyday life still now. Every day now I think, what's that person think? I walk past them on the street, they might just look at me. They're just looking because that's what we do as humans. I might, 10 minutes up the road, I might be thinking, what's that person looking at me like that for? What are they thinking? So exactly. So that's exactly where the anxiety really started from. That was the trigger then for anxiety. So I did this for 3 years behind closed doors.
Yeah.
Most nights for 3 years. And I just was a mess, man. I was a mess. But I was outside, I wasn't.
Would you have classed yourself as an alcoholic or a binge drinker? What would you have classed yourself as?
I didn't really know. I mean, I remember Googling it because I didn't know what I was, if I'm honest. And I decided I was a functioning alcoholic.
A functioning alcoholic.
I think that was the term that was...
If you didn't have a drink, your anxiety come flooding back. I've had this conversation with Adrian. But also, did you get DTs where you
everything.
So you were an alcoholic.
Yeah.
You were relying on drink in the end.
Only in the... So I wouldn't drink obviously during the day. It wouldn't even... That's the thing. All day I'd think, I'm never doing that again. I feel like crap. I've got to get through this day. Every day was a struggle now because I've got the shakes, feeling sick inside. My skin felt like it was going to crawl off my face. But then I'd start to feel better. And then I'd just go... And I'd tell myself, I'll just have one tonight. And I couldn't just... I couldn't just have one. But do you know what? I was doing it though, and going back to what you just said. So I was, and this is the term that I remember, and I've done a couple of my speeches, I was drinking to forget.
Yeah.
So I'd drink, first couple I'd be like, mate, this is wrong. Then I'd start feeling that warm, fuzzy feeling. I feel all right now. I didn't feel drunk, but just warm and fuzzy. And then I'd have the too many. Then I'd get drunk and I'd get emotional.
Yeah.
Then I'd drink more, so then I'd pass out.
Yeah.
I mean, I woke up in all sorts of places in my apartment, man. In the bath, on the floor. In the garage.
Yeah, and the self-loathing gets in a little bit as well, where especially in the mornings, when you wake up and you're just like, and you've let you
beat yourself up.
Genuinely believe that you're going to not drink,
yeah.
And then there's that battle with yourself,
internal
in your mind of, I'm not doing this, why have I done this, what's going on, and then you go out, because it's the same, I'd go to work and my breath would stink, my eyes would be
coming
shot,
out your skin like...
and I was in the role of a manager at the time, I was drinking so heavy. But then I'd be in meetings and things like that, and I'd be sat in the meetings literally para.
Oh no!
Like, what
they're going to smell it.
They can smell it. They can see it in your eyes. Yeah.
And then that then turned to the embarrassment and self-loathing. When I come out, I'd drink again. Do you know what I mean? And it was such a vicious circle.
It's horrible, man.
I think I remember having a conversation with you, Adrian, about it, but. There's two sides of you in there. There's a sober side and a not drunk, but happy as you said, fuzzy as you explained it. So, did you look at yourself like not drinking and go, I don't like that person? But then, as soon as you've had a drink, your confidence grew, and your anxieties disappeared. Because I think you were saying something similar to that. That was when you were drinking. You felt like a better person, and more confident.
Yeah, 100%.
It gave you more confidence, did it? Made you feel.
Well, and it was also you just forget. I mean, I've got Michael Mullins that I'm sure you all know. He really helped me through some of my darkest times. Do you know what I mean? Early times before I met Marianne, obviously. But Michael's really there for the early times, and he's found me in some places. And again, that was even that to the point of that was the embarrassment of my mate having
the judgment
to come and take me, everything about that, and it was so difficult to keep breaking that cycle. But again, it's understanding that you have got an issue. Because at first you don't believe that. You're just drinking and, you know.
That's why it took 3 years to realise.
It did. But I think to answer your question, really, though, it wasn't even like... That's the thing, I was doing it at home, so it wasn't even like I was doing it down the pub. It weren't like...
So it wasn't sociable.
No, and far from it, I didn't want people to know I was doing it. In fact, if I used to go down the pub for a drink... I'd have one and make my excuses to go home so I could drink at home, which is even lonelier, right? Because you're doing it now you're doing it for completely wrong reasons. So it's not like, you know, when back in the day when we used to drink down there, the Squirrel, and we were out, not funny, we was all out on the pool, right, and all the rest of it. And, you know, I might have a few drinks to give you a bit more confidence to talk to someone. I wasn't even doing it for that. It was, I'll tell you what it was, I was rattling around in this amazing apartment. This apartment was my dream apartment. Ever since I can remember, I was like, I want to live in something like this. And I'm living in this apartment, but I want to forget about it. Do you know what I mean? I want it to go blurry, and that's what I would do. I would just drink until it went blurry, and I think, but then the cycle then is awful, because to make myself feel better, I had to have a drink again the next night.
That's what I'm saying.
It's horrible, man.
You can't feel better because actually the realisation of when you're sober of what you've actually done and what
the
you're
guilt
trying to escape is back again, and you're like, well, I want to escape it again.
Yep.
I don't want to be that person. I don't want to feel like that. So I'd have a drink. Do you know what I mean? And then it'd be another drink and then another drink.
So I mean, you don't stop, do you?
No, there is no... There's no stop, and like you say, it literally would be until I fell asleep.
Until you fall asleep,
and then I'm at peace.
That's exactly.
You think you're at peace,
you're not.
But obviously you're not.
Yeah, exactly.
So, after the 3 years of you being struggling, let's just say, and not in a good way. In 2018, COVID hit.
Yeah. No, 2020. So 2018, I decided to quit the job.
2018, sorry.
Well, end of 2017, really.
2018, end of 2017, you decided to quit the corporate world.
I'd had enough, man. I woke up. Do you know what I done? I woke up, I rung my boss out on a Friday. I poured all the drink down the sink. I rung up my boss, and I got on really well with my boss. And first thing she said was, you're leaving, aren't you? You're leaving. And I said, yeah. I said, do me a favour. I said, come and get my car, the company car now. Come and get the car, come and get the laptop, take it all away. I don't want any of it anymore. And I was like, this is when I knew I needed to make a change, right? And for me, it was about the bigger change. So I needed to make a drastic change. So I was unhappy in my job, right? Because now we're being micromanaged, like we were being, you know, really like, they wanted to know every time you took a piss, do you know what I mean? It was getting ridiculous. And I was like, nah, I've had enough of this. And obviously what had happened then as well is I'd had the money, and guess what? The money didn't bring me any happiness. Yeah, so it did initially. Materialistically, it brought me happiness because I could buy what I wanted, do what I wanted. But actually, did it bring me happiness? No. So I thought, you know what, I ain't doing this anyway. So she said, fine. So, and then I'd seen... Lauren Parker, who's going to be on the show soon, I'd been going to her boxing classes, and obviously she's a professional boxer, and I'd seen what she was doing. I really liked what she was doing, but I wanted to do it. She was doing it obviously as a job and as a part of her career. I wanted to do it to help other people, so I thought maybe I can help other people. So I saw the Ricky Hatton thing, and it was just called Boxing for Fitness then. So you're not training people to fight, you're just training people for fitness-based boxing, exactly what it says on the tin. And I loved it. Sat the course, sat the accreditation, passed it with flying colours, and I was like, yeah, I'm all right now. I can sort my shit out, do you know what I mean? And just loved it and just threw myself into it, and that was the turning point, really. Although, you know, through none of this, even today, up until today, you know, the anxiety, like you've said about as well, anxiety for me will always be there. No matter what I do, I feel like it's ingrained in my DNA now. But there are ways of coping with it. I think that's the important thing for anyone that's...
Having the tools.
Yeah, exactly.
Recognise the triggers.
And recognise it.
Just to go a little bit back, so when you said that you gave up the car, you gave up the laptop and all that, was that a decision for work, or was that a decision where you actually woke up and thought, I need to change the way I am, with the drink.
I needed to change it. I needed to change everything.
It literally was that an acknowledgement of I'm waking up. This has got to stop.
Yeah. I literally sat on the end of my bed and went, nah, enough. Like enough is enough. And I think that, like you just said, there was not one part leading up to that until probably then that I'd actually acknowledged what it was also doing to my body.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like I just, I was very lucky then because I still looked all right. No one knew. Yeah. Like I could still carry a smile and I could still carry a suntan and, do you know what I mean? And I'm still in all right shape and stuff like that. Because I was still training, like during the day and that and weekends I was still training. So it wasn't like I was a bum, do you know what I mean? It wasn't like I was just doing nothing. But yeah, I just knew I had to change my life. I knew for my daughter, for everyone, I knew I had to just change. I couldn't carry on like that because eventually I was going to end up dead. It's as simple as that, you know.
Yeah, no, it is. I can resonate with that totally.
You're going to...
And like you say, listen, I know Michael and a few other people and family and that, they knew I drunk too much, but I don't think they actually knew
the extent
of what I was drinking, especially when I was on my own, especially when my mum had passed. That year, probably a year to year and a half before I met Marianne, that time I was, hiding cans.
So was you hiding it?
Oh,
I can ask you that,
So when I drunk them, obviously I was too embarrassed to put them in the bin.
Yeah, so you hide them somewhere.
Because even the binman, I didn't want the binman to see how much
the shame.
Anxiety again.
Well, judgment again.
I was putting them in black bags and putting them in the back of the garden. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I was still going to work and stuff like that, But there was that point where I don't think anyone actually knew
the realisation of it.
That brick wall of how much I was drinking.
The extent of it.
What I mean? Yeah.
It does, and it all comes. Everything we're talking about really comes back to judgment.
Yeah.
Doesn't it? Embarrassment, judgment, shame.
Even the dustman, I didn't want to show that I was drinking too much.
And they probably couldn't care less, but
not at all. Not at all. He's not going to check the bin to see how many cans I've had the night before. But obviously, again, it's that side and self-loathing and shame.
Yeah.
And then, again, you'd start drinking. Do you know what I mean? So.
Yeah, it's hard.
We're going to have another podcast on Adrian's life very soon.
Yeah.
Because he's got a lot to speak about.
Yeah, it's good.
It's good. Side of things, and he's got a lot of knowledge and previous experience. But for now, I want to concentrate on you, Lee, and I want to. So you've been through all the depression, you've been through the drink, you've been through this, you've been through that. You handed your corporate job away, and you got rid of it.
Sold my apartment.
You went to Lauren's gym and you went to her classes and you got inspired.
Yeah, 100%.
And you felt good in these classes. So then that's inspired you to then go on and open up your own gym.
But I said earlier, but perhaps for a different reason. It wasn't. It was never for financial reasons. It was. I want to help others now. Yeah. I know I can. So when I first started it, I had a little Mini Cooper, and I brought it. It was beautiful. It had a white roof, white mirrors, and it was bright metallic blue. So I knew it'd stand out. Saw it on a forecourt, and I thought that's going to stand out. And it had like a Go Faster exhaust on it as well. So people would hear me come in, and then they look and they see it. So I had it all sign written, and it said personal training with a difference was my slogan. And people went, "What's the difference?" And this is going to sound really arrogant. When I went, my life. Because what happens is, in most industries as well, you can be. Imagine you going for what you've been through, and I'm not stereotyping here, but imagine your trainer's 22 years old, and they've never been through any anxiety or they've had a real nice, easy upbringing. They're not going to understand you. You're not going to be on the same. Does that make sense? So I was aiming my business at slightly people the same sort of age, so slightly older people who've been through something, because everyone's been through something. Let's face it, most of us. And that's what I found with it. I found that most people that come to me, they'd open up just naturally. They would just talk to me and open up, and it would become like a counselling session for them. And I remember a couple of times, they didn't even do a single bit of exercise. Sometimes we just sit and talk for an hour, which they needed, and I'd let them. I felt guilty because they're paying me, but they wanted to talk to me, and I was like, no, this is what I wanted. This is now working. This is now, and then not only was I helping them with that, I was then helping them with the fitness. So it became like, and it was also therapy for me.
I was just about to say, did you find that
100%.
a lot of it was actually
100%. 100%. It made me think that, because I don't know how you guys feel, and I've never felt like a victim, but there are times when you feel sorry for yourself, right?
100%.
Like the self-loathing, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes people will talk to me and I go, do you know what? my life ain't been that bad actually. These poor people, like, I've been through some real shit.
Yeah.
And actually, and it wasn't like nice to hear they've had a worse life than me, but it just made me think, okay, like they've survived, I can survive. We can kind of help each other. So yeah, so just built it up from there really, and the boxing then became bigger and bigger and bigger, and more people come, and then decided I wanted to open an academy. I wanted to train people to help them to learn to fight as well, and that's where we are.
And then in my research, so you got to that point with the new project.
Yeah.
And then I read somewhere that your partner at the time set up a GoFundMe to raise a few quid and get you a logo and do other bits and pieces, because obviously business setups cost money.
I didn't have any money. Yeah. I didn't have any money. I spent it all.
He lived quite a good life.
I spent it all.
I
spent it all.
But it all ideas have to start from somewhere.
Yeah,
it started right at the beginning. And then you obviously needed a ring.
Boxing ring,
boxing ring to put in there as well.
Yeah.
And originally you said it was set up for people of your age and people that have lived life and got some...
That was the original kind of thing.
But current stats state that you now train from children as young as 8 and people in their 50s, early 60s. So the age range now is quite broad, isn't it?
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah. Over how many years now has it been that your business has been going?
So 2018, then we had obviously the COVID period of whatever it was, 2 years or whatever. So then obviously when that happened, I lost the business and I had to move back. I had to move in with my dad.
How did you feel with that?
Yeah, that was tough. So that was so I started drinking again.
Yeah.
Of course I did. And actually, what was funny about it's not funny, but relevant, sorry, about what you just said, was I was living under my dad and his wife's roof, and they treated me lovely. I had a beautiful room and everything else, but I didn't want my dad to know I was drinking, so I would do the same. I'd wrap it in black bags and put it in the boot of my car and then take it to the bins or something up the road or something. Not like I used to, but I started to drink again because I was in an unhappy place. I lost my business, which I just started. I've been in it for 2 years, I think it was, and it was really thriving. Do you know what I mean? And then I had no money. I had no house, no money. I had no sort of fixed address, if you want to call it that. And then my best mate, Dean, he committed suicide during COVID.
There was a COVID has a lot to answer for.
Yeah, sorry.
Don't apologise, mate. That's what
this is
all
real.
About.
This is real, Lee.
Do you know what I mean?
It's real life.
Yeah.
And to really touch on that, I don't want to make it worse for you, but with the drink and losing so much, I mean, how did that really make you feel? Was that a case of that's what the depression started, or? Well,
I think one or two things happened really. I think it there's never a good side of it, but I suppose there was to a point. Was I said to myself, I'm never going to go back to the way I was before, which I'm sure you've probably done it as well. And I didn't. So while I was drinking, it was like, I was drinking because I sort of had nothing else to do, really, let's face it. We do COVID, walking during the day, and at night I was just sitting in the room watching telly. And then when my mate obviously committed suicide, and I thought, nah, I ain't never going back to that. That ain't happening. And then we sort of slowly started to come out of COVID. And all that actually done was made me more determined to make the business start again, but not only just start again, but be bigger and better.
Yeah.
So actually, it kind of gave me a bit of a kick up the backside. You know what I mean? To make things.
It's not something that you want to happen.
No.
You've got to try and again.
You have to use it as.
You have to use these. It either makes you or breaks you, and
100%. Yeah.
It done the right thing for you, and you know, God rest his soul. Yeah. He's helped you in an
unknown way. Yeah.
So
So I started the business again, and then because it was that really weird time when you was allowed to train people, but had to be in groups of 6. So it was so weird, right?
When I was coaching,
it was so weird.
The soccer school at the Eagles, it was you were only allowed to be in little pockets.
That's it,
around the pitch.
It had to be X amount of places away from each other. But I was a bit sneaky with it because I remember them saying you can train groups of 6. They didn't say how many groups of 6 you're allowed to train. So I had 10 groups of 6. If that makes sense. But they was all
Don't worry, mate. We've already gone past.
Exactly, it's all right now.
You can do one.
But they was all. It was weird because there was a group over there, and I'd be like, right, you lot. But it was out in the field, and I.
So was that local in Letchworth? Was it?
No. So that was St Neots. So I lived in Camborne with my dad. and his wife. And then I started that in St Neots because there was a massive big park. It was like, you know, everyone could go there. And I just put an advert on Facebook and everyone was like, oh my God, I'm dying to get out.
Yeah.
So it was like, again, it was fitness-based boxing then, a bit of boot camp type stuff, you know. And I was like, there's a demand for this. And then obviously we came back out fully of COVID. And then, your phone got off.
Give it a little swipe, haven't we? No, you have to give it a swipe.
That just say we wants to carry on or not?
Yeah, it's like a... There you go. Once he gets it right.
Oh, you have to match it?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So,
Weird TikTok.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. Yeah, so then it was a case of trying to find a venue.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I couldn't find it. And mate, the prices of venue, you know, like bricks and mortar, I couldn't afford it. I had no money. So, and then the Ainsbury Rovers, so my partner at the time, going back to what you said, so she did a GoFundMe thing, which you touched on. That was to buy the boxing ring, the canvas on the boxing ring. So luckily, she found Ainsbury Rovers. She just put a post on Facebook and they said, we've got an old marquee that you're welcome to use. And it was like, it had more holes in it than I can tell you. It was leaking everywhere. And there was one point... Perfect for boxing.
Perfect.
We've both been there, so we know.
Yeah. I was literally following people around at one point with a towel underneath my foot, dragging this towel along, going, don't worry, don't trip over, you signed the waiver for them, because the case they tripped anyway. And I thought, right, we can't train out of this. Anyway, cut long story short, the GoFundMe thing happened, and then we had someone that come in and said, I'd like to help you out with a bit of money. So we took the old marquee down, built the new one, as you've seen, put a new floor in there, proper, got there. And I got a sponsor from a company called GPR Cars. They were two of my clients, and they just really loved what I was doing. And they just said, what do you need? And I said, I need a boxing ring. It's $4,500. I can't afford it. And they said, right, we'll buy it for you. We'll sponsor you. So that's how that. And then the GoFundMe was actually just to make sure the canvas had the branding on it. So because that was an extra £400, I think, for the branding. So yeah. So then we started the academy side of it, training people, learning how to fight now. You know.
Was you still drinking at the early starts of this, or had you?
No. So now I'm a social drinker.
Yeah.
So I'm a social drinker now. If I go down to the pub, I'll have a couple of drinks. I went to a wedding a couple of weeks ago, had a few drinks, so no. Yeah, all that stopped.
And you know your limit, you just stop when you want to stop, and you don't want to do it the next day. Sometimes
I even just, if I get halfway through the night, I'll just switch to water. I don't think, I've had enough now. I can stop any time now. Yeah,
that's good.
Don't need that anymore, mate. Yeah. Don't need it. And the other thing about it as well is, going back to the anxiety thing, it kicks my anxiety into gear, man.
Yeah, big time.
It's horrible.
I don't miss them.
You don't miss that feeling?
No. At the time,
you needed to top up.
In it.
Yeah.
But now, I don't miss that one bit.
It brings on the anxiety so bad, like the palpitations, the shakes, everything.
I miss the social side of it. Don't get me wrong, because obviously you don't get invited to as many, or just to go in the pub on a Friday night or a Saturday or whatever. I miss that side of it because I'm quite a sociable person. Yeah. But I don't miss.
You don't need.
What comes along with it.
No,
that's all.
It's not pleasant. Pleasant.
So you've got your ring now, and you're doing everything that you wanted to do, and you're progressing the business forward. You've got a big client base, as we've already touched on, ranging from young to a bit older.
Yeah.
And you've now gone into, or previously you've gone into training fighters to actually fight and compete in boxing matches.
Yeah.
And in some of my research, you've had some success.
Yeah.
Right? Some of the people that you've taught and you've, what's the right phrase, coached?
Coached,
they've done quite well. They've won fights and you travelled with them.
Yeah, we're on a little bit of a winning streak in a minute, touch wood. We've got fighters out again Saturday. And I think for me... Has it stopped?
No.
Carry on.
I think for me, the success... I'll tell you a real success story from the gym, right? So we're a fully private gym. That's what we are. We don't listen. We don't make much money. I don't make much money. It pays the bills, and that's fine. I'm all right with that. And then you've got ABA gyms, ABC gyms that are government funded. So there's one up the road from me, brilliant gym, get on really well with the owners. So we're not in competition with each other. We work with each other, if anything. But they got 35 kids. Right? That's a lot of kids to train. You probably know it from the football, right? So capacity really for us, we can probably get 20 people in that room, and that's what we want really. So I had a kid come to me about 2 years ago, and he walked in the door. Mate, I've never met anyone more dejected in my life. He was he's 17, 16, he's 15, 14 years old, I think he was. He was looking at the floor. He wouldn't look up, and he shuffled his feet. Like, he couldn't even pick his feet up. He was overweight. Right? He was dejected, man. You just think, this poor kid. He didn't talk, didn't say much. He couldn't do one press up. He couldn't do anything. And I just looked at this poor lad and I said, where have you come from? I've come from another gym. He said, they basically just stuck me in a punch bag. Because, and I'm not blaming the other gym, by the way, but for them, that was too much hard work. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? They got 35 kids in there. They're there to find champions.
Yeah, of course. They've got a different goal. In fairness, like you say, 100%. You've got a different. You need to make a bit of dough because listen.
Yeah.
It's not
I can't live otherwise, can I?
You can't live.
Yeah.
But you had a different project and a different goal.
My goal was to help people and help people and make sure as well. My biggest goal is to make sure no one goes through what I went through. Does that make sense? Stop them before any of that stuff can happen. Anyway, he came in, couldn't do one press up, and he kept coming back every week. He kept coming back. And suddenly he could do 2 press ups. Suddenly he could do 3 press ups. Blah blah. Anyway, cut forward 2 years. The guy lost just under 5 stone. The lad. He's now fighting Saturday. He's got his 3rd fight Saturday. He's a completely different kid. When he comes in, he holds his head up high. He don't shuffle his feet no more. He goes to the gym. He's got a job at Tesco's. Do you know what I mean? And like, when you see that, that's just one. But when you see that, and that kid went somewhere else, and people dismissed him because he was too much hard work. And I think that's what makes it all worthwhile.
And that's what we're trying to achieve. Can we just be that little catalyst?
Yeah.
Even if it's one person.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if what we do with Rise Above can keep someone waking up that extra morning.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're getting somewhere.
Exactly.
You know, and that's all it is. And that kid now, who you've helped, what will he do with his life now? How many people is he going to touch?
He's on a different path now. Big time. And I think what's lovely as well is his parents have acknowledged what we've done for him and thanked us and all the rest of it. And there's another kid that's going through a bit of trouble at school and stuff. He's got I can read him like a book. This kid's got social anxiety written all over him. Again, doesn't talk much, holds his head low. He covers himself up. Even when it's hot, he'll come in jogging bottoms and a big jacket. He's hiding. Do you know what I mean? I can see he's hiding. And
almost like a permanent comfort blanket.
You got it, right? And actually, I reached out to his mum, and she was like, she messaged back, and she just said, I can't thank you enough just for recognising, just for even acknowledging that he ain't right. And she said, and he really looks up to you, and he confides in you. And he came back the next week, and he was come back, that jacket weren't on him anymore. He was a bit more sprightly, and I think she had a chat with him and said, your coach has noticed that you're not right, and you can talk. And I said, you can talk to me. Because sometimes, you both know this, sometimes it's easier to talk to an outsider.
Yeah, of course.
Does that make sense? Because your family, realistically, are probably going to tell you what you want to hear, or what they think you want to hear.
Of course.
If that makes sense. Because
they'll protect you from the truth sometimes.
And
you got it.
Sometimes they're too close to it.
They're too close.
Do you know what I mean?
They are too close.
Tell you what you probably don't want to hear, or they'll be a bit fluffier with it, whereas a stranger will be much more...
Absolutely.
Straight up, yeah.
I'll tell you a quick scenario. When I was living with my dad, and my dad's very lucky, right? My dad's like the most laid-back man I've ever met in my life. He's 75 now. He's like Benjamin Button, my dad. Mate, he's in great shape. He's had a lovely life. He's looks after himself and the rest of it. And when I was living at my dad's, and I was talking about anxiety and stuff, and I was having a bit of an episode, and I was in the kitchen trying to do so. I was shaking away, and anyway, and he actually shouted at me. He had a massive go at me, right? And he said the words that no one should ever say. And he literally said, pull yourself together, son, right? And it was like, it would destroy me in a second, because it was like he was shouting at me. And his wife obviously pulled him to one side and said, you can't do that. Like, and afterwards he come and he had a chat, and he said, and he apologised, but he said, help me understand, because he said, I don't understand it.
It is that.
He didn't understand it, and now he does. But he said, I needed you to tell me. He said, because all I see is you moping around. Yeah. And my dad's eyes, he was like, what? Going back to what he said, he went, what have you got to be unhappy about?
Yeah.
What is wrong with you? That's what he was saying. He said, I want to shake you.
Yeah. And my dad was the same. My sister's got bipolar.
Yeah, I see on the podcast.
She's got a lovely job. She's a director of a company. She's got a lovely home. She's got everything you'd ever want from the outside.
Wow. Yeah.
And when she hit the brick wall, as they say, my dad was, I can't get what is wrong.
Yeah.
Cheer up.
Yeah, well, you go. Yeah, smile with you.
But he then started going to meetings, and suddenly realised there were 60, 70-year-old people that were there with and got it. Do you know what I mean? But he was very old school. Was like, what's your problem?
That's what my dad is, I think.
You're driving around in a 50-grand Range Rover and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean?
What have you got to be unhappy about?
That's just the outside again, and they don't understand what really is the trauma inside.
What I do when I do I've done one for a few years, and I want to do them again. But when I did my talks on male suicide prevention and mental health and stuff,
I was just going to touch on that.
Do you know what I did when it was
The
the best thing I could ever have done was I purposely encouraged people to bring their partners.
Yeah.
Right, they weren't going to. Right, so like you might come on your own, you might come on your own. And I said, bring like your wife, your girlfriend, your brother, your sister, whatever. Someone who's in your life who don't understand it. And I remember looking, I did 2 groups of 30 people. I didn't want 60 at the time. It was a bit overwhelming. So I had 2 groups over 2 days. There's 30 people stood in front of me. And I started saying a few things, and the people started nodding. And they looked at them, and I went, and it was like, and I stopped, and I said, can I just see you nodding? And I said, the pennies just dropped, innit? And she went, I get it. She went, now I get why he does what he does. And she said, I feel really bad. I said, no, don't feel bad, because you didn't get it. She said, I used to say to him, will you smile? For God's sake, will you smile?
Yeah.
And she's like, and now I understand it. So it really helps go to that when you can involve family members, because they don't get it. No. My dad didn't get it. And thank God he's never had to suffer with anxiety, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but at least he understands it a bit now. So when I am a bit low, now he won't go, for God's sake, pull yourself together. He'll go, do you want to have a chat, son?
Yeah.
So,
do you want a cup of tea?
Yeah. He rings me up, he says, give me a call anytime you want to talk to me. So, and that's important, isn't it? It's the same as what you guys are doing here, is raising awareness of this and realising that there are other people out there that you can reach out, and there are other people that have been there.
We're even to the point of we're still learning. I mean,
God, yeah.
Shane brought to my attention the other day, he'd obviously been researching, and again we keep going on about this, but 80% of suicides in Hertfordshire are male.
It's men, exactly.
You know, 1 in 4 people will suffer with mental health, have or will.
Yep.
You know, if you walk down the aisle of a supermarket, nearly half of them people down that aisle are going to suffer.
They are.
And it gets me, that one.
Well, the big you point out, the biggest killer in men under 50 is suicide. That's mental.
And I think you'll find that a lot of it is what we've all experienced. What do they think of me? They must think this of me. They must think that of me. And then they go home, have their drink on their own in their apartment, and then the end result is the end result.
Is the end result,
That's what it stems from, isn't it?
Yeah, of course.
You know, a lot of it, you know, unless you've let your family down as well, that's a big
massive.
One. That's a bit, let your kids down or whatever. Or,
the guilt and everything.
That was again, I don't want to go too much about my, but that was my experience. It's massively of the shame of trying to look my mum in the eye when she was alive, or my dad, or my sister. Or Marianne, bless her, in the early days. Do you know what I mean?
You first met.
It was so tough,
and
then hard. You'd hide from it and try and. It was so difficult, And once you get into that self-loathing situation, if you don't love yourself,
it's hard to get out of that.
You can't ever think that anyone would be better off with you about. So your children, they can't love you. Your mother, your partner, they don't love me, because if you don't love yourself,
you can't expect someone else to
love you. So therefore, that's when the thoughts start creeping in of, well, do I need to?
Is there any point anymore?
Why am I putting myself through this? Why am I waking up every morning crying? Feeling rubbish. Do you know what I mean? It's not, and that's where we need to be able to build that community where when people are feeling like that, because it does happen, can they go somewhere? Can they talk to someone? Do you know what I mean? Can you be that person they reach out to that wakes them up one more day? Do you know what I mean?
Sometimes people just want that reassurance of knowing it's just not them. It's because you feel like it's just you that's suffering, sort of thing.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, 100% agree with you, because all 3 of us suffer our own things that we suffer. But I've only ever been suicidal twice, and lucky for me, I got pulled away from it. But I can imagine how easy it is to slip into that dark place. Even now, sometimes I've just left my employed role, and I spend a lot of time at home now. by the time you've done the hoovering, the dishes and mopped the floors, you've got nothing else to do.
Yeah, what'd you do with your day?
And you're literally sat there gone, I want Jeremy Kyle to come back, because other people's problems always seem better than your own, don't they? Yeah. But boredom is a big thing for me at the minute, and then that leads to my anxieties and etc. etc. But, you know, a friend of mine, he committed suicide, and on the outside in, again, he had 2 beautiful girls, he had a lovely relationship, and
why would he do
his
that?
mum loved him, and he had no reason to do it, but nobody knows what went on behind. But when I also read that, you obviously you touched on it just a second ago, you did a lot of talks in front of people. Again, that gives you anxiety, right? Like even standing in front of 30 strangers and opening yourself up like a book. I do it in school assemblies and like to young kids, talking about homelessness and addictions and things. But that gives me such anxiety. Like my heart goes. I've got a heart condition as well. That's don't help. But my heart rate goes, and I can imagine what you're doing there is also helping you in return, because you're overcoming your anxiety, aren't you?
Well, I think the thing for me was exactly, so you get nervous because you got these people looking at you, but actually I knew the end result was going to be so worth it, like so worth it. And actually that's when it's amazing, isn't it? Because you know, all 3 of us and people that have gone through this, actually I think we're actually very strong people. We have to be, because we wouldn't be here otherwise. That's a fact, 100%. Right? But then but certain things make you nervous and certain things don't. But I feel like for me, when I do the talks, it's a different anxiety. It's nervousness.
Getting it right.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it's not anxiety like... So my anxiety comes from overthinking. I'm the world's worst. I can make a scenario up in my head that comes from absolutely nowhere, that's never ever going to happen, but in my mind it's going to happen.
So is that... Because obviously we've had a little chat recently, so you had to take yourself away for a few days.
Yes, I did, yeah.
So was that a trigger from that side of it, or
yeah?
Obviously, we don't want you to open go too.
No.
Obviously, we just want to touch on and show that it's still a daily struggle.
It's still there. I think what I think happened there is, so I had a bit of a relationship breakup, which is one I ended the relationship, but regardless of whether I ended the relationship or the other person did, you spend a lot of time with someone, you can't just stop feeling something for someone. And I think, going back to what we touched on earlier, social media is a nightmare. So the first thing that happens with social media when you break up is you see what the other person's doing, and sometimes it can upset you, or or whatever, I don't know, whatever. And so for me, I felt like I needed to just get away from it. I felt like, and if I'm honest, this is where it'll come around to a positive in a minute, I just ran away. That's the truth. The truth is, I ran away because I didn't want to bump into my ex-partner, because we live in the same town. Didn't want to face some of the certain things that had happened, that had gone on when the relationship ended. Not any, no malice towards her or anything like that. I just, in my head, I was like, I need to get away. I don't want to bump into that person, because if I do, I've got to face up to the fact this relationship's over now. So I went to where I normally go. I went to the coast, and that's always been like my little safe haven, right, little happy place. And don't get me wrong, I loved it. But actually, and this is where the positive comes from, the positive is I woke up and I thought, no, I need to go home. I need to go home, and I actually need to face up to my problems. And that's good. That's a good thing, because instead of burying my head in the sand, I came back a day earlier. I thought, and I want to face my issues head on. And it's the best thing I could have done, because what I did was I come back, and then I had my busy Thursday evening boxing class, where I've got a lot of people that have been coming for a long time, got some new people.
They rely on you as well.
Yeah, and I didn't want to let them down, and I absolutely loved it, and it was the best thing that could have happened. Otherwise, what I would have done was I'd have spent another night in this chalet on my own, overthinking what might never happen.
Scrolling through social media.
Just seeing things I don't want to see. And so I think that's where, for me, mobile phones are probably the worst thing that could ever happen to us. For me personally, I don't, we need them, and it's great for this, but in general,
it has a purpose.
It has its purpose, but it's also
can be abused.
That's what I mean.
It's if you use it for the right thing.
Exactly, it has its purpose, which effectively is to ring and contact people. But again, like you say, we need it to try and get our message across, but really it's probably the root of half the reason why we've got to get.
It's a massive distraction tool. Yeah. Let's face it, like you said, scrolling. What you do is you scroll and you see, and this is where I don't know if you guys are the same, but if I see something that triggers, so I might see something that upsets me, and that's a trigger then. Yeah. So like I said, what I'll do now is I'll take that and I'll take something else and I'll take something else and I'll come up with this massive story at the end of it. I'm convinced something's going to happen. Yeah, then I don't sleep at night, and I wake up next day and I'm shaking like a leaf because I'm anxious, and then I can't function throughout the day because I'm now thinking this and thinking that. So I think, and I don't think I know, going back to really where we started full circle is what happened in my childhood is now what is still happening in my adulthood. Yeah. All those anxious thoughts, am I good enough? Am I worthy enough? Do I look like this? Do people like me? You know, those thoughts of that. Even though I know I'm doing a good job in life and I'm helping people, really I shouldn't be having them thoughts anymore. No, do you know what I mean? But I can't help it.
The thing is it's ingrained in us that we have to please people. Yep. We're a race of trying to please. Well, exactly. 95% of us are, do you know what I mean? Yeah, we are. And we're always trying to please, whether that be our partners, whether that be our children, whether that be our parents, whoever. We're always trying to please. And that pressure as well can really take its toll. And that's where you have to try and step back. And it's good that you took yourself away. But that was, again, a trigger, but when you took yourself away, it was actually using some tools. Yeah, it was. And then when you came back, you were again using tools.
Used tools, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's what we're trying to achieve here.
Yeah. And that is the thing, I think, so exactly. So going back to that, I think the right thing exactly was use the tools, recognise that I needed a break from whatever that environment was, but then recognising actually that running away from your problems isn't going to solve it, because it ain't going to go away, is it? It's still going to be there when you come back.
Might even be bigger when you get back.
Might be bigger, because you built it up and built it up.
In your head, that's what metaphorically, I mean, like not.
Yeah, no, exactly, 100%.
You might make it into something like you said. You get this.
I just barrel rolls, right?
Make it bigger.
The snowballs.
Massive snowballs. Yeah. Domino effect, as
domino effect. Yeah. But that does all stem from the stuff that's happened in the past, the anxiety and the overthinking and everything else. And it's a bit like someone sitting there, stop talking about your weight or something. You know, that's a massive thing for me, because you know, look, we're similar age. I'm older than you.
Just about. Just about.
A similar age. And it happens to us, right? But, But then, you know, it's like, again, this whole trigger thing, right? So sometimes I'll go somewhere and I haven't seen someone for years. They go, put on a bit of timber camping, right?
So straight away anxiety.
Right. They don't mean nothing by it, right? And actually, the person that's saying that to me, 9 times out of 10, they put on the timber and all, right? Yeah. But because they remember me being this little skinny 21-year-old, exactly. So now what happens is it triggers.
It's the sport we were in as well. You were in a box. So I coach football. Yeah. So obviously I'm surrounded by young, fit lads, which I used to be. Yeah. Now it's like, whoa.
Exactly, because you think they're
not.
No,
I'm not a big guy.
No,
I'm just
absolutely
a middle-aged.
You're older.
Even if AI doesn't.
And yourself, you know, you're in a gym.
Exactly.
You've got that anxiety about it yourself. Yeah. So then when someone's just joking, as we spoke about,
then it makes me think.
It doesn't realise, and that's where we're saying about what you say to people. Yep. Can have a real effect.
That's what I'm saying. We open this, and it's the same. So you're the same. I'm so active, like mate. I run around like a headless chicken. I mean, I broke this finger a couple of weeks ago, so I got this wonky finger going, right? So the moment, look at that. So at the moment, I can't hold boxing pads, but when I'm holding pads, I'm training 4, 5, 6 people a day. Yeah. I'm running around holding pads. Then I run teach the kids, and I'm running around then. So you know exactly. So it's not like we're unfit or unhealthy, but exactly. So I do that. I look and I think sometimes. I shouldn't, because people are coming to me still. And if people come to me, and same as you, they come to me for my knowledge, and I'm clearly doing something right because they keep coming. Yeah. But I should stop thinking I think they're thinking, how dare you tell me to do 50 burpees? Look at you. But I could do them. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I always say to people, I never asked you to do something I can't do myself. And sometimes I'll join in the class. Yeah. So, but it's that overthinking, isn't it?
Exactly that. We're just going to we're just coming to the end of this chat. We're just going to go through some comments that have come in that we haven't spoke about. Jonas Visual 17 says, great to see these issues are being brought up. Always good to spread awareness.
Brilliant. Thank you.
JG says, sorry to keep going on, but it takes strong men in a room to talk about their problems. Keep going. Men think covering up and bottling up is strong, but it does the absolute opposite. And Harp says, great, watch this. Lots of people have been putting some love in the chat. D has put the strong emoji, basically saying we're strong talking about this, or you're strong talking about this. Rods has just joined as well. But what I want to do is, obviously it's coming to the end. We've been talking for an hour and a half now.
Oh, well.
It's gone through, hasn't it?
It has gone through.
To talk about,
but however, we could talk for another hour and a half
you know.
about these things that men don't normally talk about. But what I always do with our podcasts, you can see there's a couple of cameras here, but if you look at that camera, and just what we'll do is we'll clip this and we'll just basically put it out. But I wanted to tell that camera, for the future person that's watching that clip, what, if they're having a bad day or whatever, how do you cope? Just to explain it to them.
Yeah, I think ultimately it's about recognising triggers, recognising what pushes your buttons essentially, and not hiding from them. So as I alluded to a minute ago, I had a bit of an issue and I ran away from it. I thought running away would be the easiest option. Actually, it's not, because actually when I come back, that issue or that problem is still going to be there. So I think I know this might sound obvious, but surround yourself with positive people. You know, there's a lot of negativity in the world. Again, touched on social media. Social media can be a real bad trigger for anxiety, and for people that suffer with that sort of mental health. It can trigger bad things. I'm trying to do it now. Limit your social media use. And listen, if you've got toxic people in your life, as horrible as it sounds, man, but get rid of them, because get rid of them, because they're soul suckers, as I call them, because they will just suck the life out of you. And I think that you don't
want the best for you.
They don't want the best for you. And also jealousy. I think jealousy for me is a horrible trait. If you know, anyone, you guys, was to win the lottery tomorrow, right? I'm not going to be like, oh man, I'm going to be pleased for you. Do you know what I mean? And that's how it should be. And unfortunately in the past, I've been surrounded by people who, when I'm successful, rather than see that as a good thing, they want to knock it, and they want to see that, I don't know, they want to degrade you a little bit, and not shake your hand and say well done. So I think it's just important to have the right people around you. If you've got this many friends, like, keep them, and they're close, keep them. We don't need. I've got 1,500 friends on my social media. I haven't got 1,500 friends.
No.
Who's got 1,500 friends? Who needs 1,500 friends?
How many of them 1,500 people
That's
would
what
be
I mean.
at your door if
they're
you need
acquaintances, you know, people I've met throughout for my years, and it's great to have them. But I really want, you know, this many people, really, don't you? Exactly. You want and I think that, I'll tell you the one thing as well, I would say, is that this is my feeling. People with real anxiety and real depression, they don't fake it. And I also think that real people with real depression don't shout about it. In fact, they do the opposite. They hide from it. So if you know someone that you think might be suffering, it takes literally 5 seconds to pick up the phone. Don't text someone. Pick the phone up and ring them.
You can't get what they're feeling across a text. You really need to speak to someone and look at them and understand where they're at.
Yeah. It's easy for me. Someone could text me. You could text me tomorrow, and I'll be having a real bad day. And you go, "How you doing, mate?" And I'll go, "Yeah, I'm good, thanks." All right. And now you'd go, "Okay, it's cool." But actually, if you were to ring me, and you might hear it in my voice, and I'm going, "Yeah, I'm really good," and you go, "No, you're not." And that's the difference.
Well enough.
Yeah. That's the difference. Is, you know, it's very easy behind. So again, social media, we can be whoever we want to be, can't we? Yeah. We can hide behind it.
Yeah, we can.
But just speak out. Just honestly, this men's mental health is it's not a stigma. It's not a taboo. Like, it's not. Like, men cry, man. Men should show their emotions. You're just a human being, aren't you?
Yeah, and that's a big thing for me. We are just human.
If you listen,
we really are just human.
If you cut me or you cut a lady, we're all going to bleed. Yeah. We're all the same, right underneath.
We've all got emotions and feelings. It's just we're not allowed to show them, because we still live at a certain degree with this caveman mentality where
I agree.
It's all about who's the hardest, who's the fittest, who's the best looking. And it's not about that as such. Yes, we need them to progress to a certain degree in life, but it's all about just understanding that we're just human and we do suffer and we do struggle.
Exactly.
And it's okay.
Yeah, it is.
It really is okay.
Yeah.
And then we just heal. And then we get better.
Yeah.
You know?
100%.
Well, I just want to say thank you very much for opening up. We could carry on talking about life for the next hour, but unfortunately we're running out of camera storage.
Sorry, mate. sorry.
But it's been fantastic to catch up with you. See you again.
Brilliant.
Thanks, mate.
And it's so good to hear that you're.
Thank you.
You're now doing really well, and
I have my bad days.
Yeah.
But
we all do.
the most important thing is recognising those bad days.
Knowing how to.
You got it, and knowing how to cope with them, and knowing how to move on.
Yeah.
That's the important part.
For now, that's the end of the chat.
Peace, people.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Turn that off.
Hour and a half.
Relax a bit.
Sorry, didn't realise we've gone like that long.
No, don't, mate. That's normally about an average, isn't it?
Is that about right?
An hour and